Breaking news. Canada and China have reached a trade agreement and have broken the U.S. line of defense. Iran has reported the destruction of a related armed network in Tehran. The Israeli authorities are aware that the U.S. military budget against Iran or its allies is still on the table. And the White House has all the information about Iran on the table. And the final decision will be with Trump. In the name of God, and welcome to this news series. According to media reports, Canada and China have reached a trade agreement on the introduction of electricity and exports. This is a sign of a change in Washington's policy. In this agreement, Canada will allow nearly 50,000 Chinese-made electrical appliances to enter the country each year with a 6.1% tariff, which is less than 100% currently. And in response, Canada will cut the costs of coal, LMR. Carney, the former Canadian minister, said that this agreement is a sign of security resistance in relation to a decision that has not been finalized for years. Carney, who was speaking in China, said that the relationship with China has recently been more predictable than the relationship with the United States, despite the fact that trade friction has increased under Washington's supportive policies. This agreement came after the introduction of the United States, which was adopted by Donald Trump during his presidency, and the expansion of coal and aluminum was achieved. Trump has also repeatedly proposed the idea of transforming Canada into a 51st state, which clarifies the bilateral relationship. This step, contrary to Washington's tough policy against China, is a policy that the United States is waiting for, and the United States is following it. This message reminded that this agreement is a sign of Canada's efforts to unify trade and its commitment to its own partnership, which will be unpredictable in the future. The Iranian Ministry of Information announced that one of its main assets, which is a network of related armed organizations, is being studied in Tehran. According to a statement issued by state media on Tuesday, the Ministry of Information has included members of this network in some of the terrorist activities in order to delay the protests. The actions, according to the authorities, have caused the death of several citizens. In the course of this operation, several people related to this network were released. The Ministry of Information announced that this operation was carried out after months of information and technical searches, but has not given details about the identities of the detainees, the exact time of the operation, or the location of the arrests. As of now, it is impossible to confirm the alleged claims on the official websites. In addition, there is no information about the status of the detainees' legal status, including their access to a lawyer or a judicial process. The spread of this news is that Iran has witnessed growing protests and unrest in recent months. Islamic Republic agencies consider these protests to be to some extent a part of the activities of organized and armed groups, while human rights organizations and some foreign governments are concerned about the direction of the security forces and protesters with their extended presence and the direction of the fair judicial process. Iranian media emphasize that security measures are being carried out in order to preserve the national security and public order, claims that critics see it as an excuse to limit protests and political opponents. In addition, the head of the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence, Faraja, reported that about 60,000 types of weapons were seized in the province of Bushehr, and announced that the previous cargo from the transfer to Tehran has been identified and stopped. It is said that these seized items included knives, daggers, and other weapons, which were organized and in large quantities. However, the first evidence indicates that the ultimate purpose of this cargo was the city of Tehran. More details about the source of these weapons, the ship of transport, the individuals or networks associated with this cargo, and also the exact time of its discovery have not been released. Official sources have announced that further investigations are underway to identify the causes of the intrusion and the possible explanation of this incident. In addition, the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence has announced that an armed group, which is said to have entered the country during recent unrests and had carried out armed operations in Tehran. According to the information released by this ministry, members of this group, in the evening of the month of December, with the use of war weapons, they bombed Tehran's largest 126. In this statement, it is said that the attackers fired more than 850 bullets in order to use this military base and have access to the existing weapons in it. Security sources say that during this attack, several people from the police forces, Basij, and a number of citizens were killed. However, no exact number of victims has been released. The Ministry of Information has also announced that during the identification and release of members of this group, armed men fired at security forces. According to this source, in exchange for fire, one of the members of the group was killed and 4 others were released. Also, 2 people from the Ministry of Intelligence were involved in this operation. Most of the details about the identities of the released people, the path of entry to the country, or the possibility of this group's affiliation to specific organizations have not been released. Independent sources have not been able to confirm the reports issued by the authoritarian authorities. According to a report, the Israeli and American news websites warned that with the recent delays in the U.S. military attack program, the possibility of the U.S. military attack may be overshadowed in the future. According to this report, these agencies have said that the military plan has not yet been fully released, and in the event of a change in the conditions or identification of the individuals, it can be carried out quickly. The latest delays, according to the Institute for International Studies, were probably the advice of the regional and international units. The researchers say that the decision is on the ground and that any possible military action could have extended consequences in the region, including the intensification of Iran's presence among its allies and the impact on the global energy markets. So far, neither of the relevant states has officially confirmed the exact time or details of a possible completion, and the authorities emphasize that in the event of a military action, various estimates will be made available. This report is currently being published, which has been in the media for the past few weeks, and the international governments and institutions have warned of security and diplomatic consequences for any possible action. And the addition of more forces to the region shows that the military plan is still in the hands of the U.S., with Donald Trump, the President of the United States, emphasizing that he has ignored the attack on Iran, and he said that this decision was made after the suspension of the 800-person Iranian military execution. The issue of its presence between the two countries has been somewhat resolved. However, despite the presence of the White House, the U.S. Department of State, and Iraq's Abbas and the Foreign Minister of Iran are still holding their positions. The White House spokesman emphasized that Trump has kept his positions on Iran, and no one but the president does not know what he will ultimately decide. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, Trump has decided to be in favor of the United States and the world.